Hi everyone! Today we're going to be looking at the Creative Colouring Discovery Kit by Spectrum Noir. Now, I just ordered this from Amazon, it came in this morning and I am super excited to have a look at it, mainly because of the artist who's featured in this discovery kit, and that is the lovely Carrah Aldridge. So, I don't know whether or not you know of Carrah. She is creative_Carrah on Instagram and she is just absolutely fantastic at what she does. Now, if you've been following my social media over the past week, you'll see that I put a couple of posts up of me learning to sketch, and sketch mainly faces. Now, I would love to be able to do photorealistic sketches, and maybe I'll get there one day, who knows. But until then, this is the kind of style that I wish I could draw, and that's kind of what I'm working towards. So if you've seen YouTubers like Drawing with Waffles and Carrah, and you know, this very similar sort of illustration, the cartoon-like big eyes and beautiful colours, that's the kind of thing I want to be able to do. So I'm really excited that there is a discovery kit here with tips and tricks from one of my favourite artists in this style. So each discovery kit, because there are a few of them, this is a colouring one, each one is $11.99 and you can get them from pretty much anywhere. I bought mine from Amazon, you can get them from Crafter's Companion or Craft Stash, there's loads of places. I'll leave the link in the description where I got mine. But yeah, there are a few different discovery kits. This one's the colouring one. There's also blended mandalas, illustration, manga and comic, watercolour, concept design and modern calligraphy. And the idea behind it is that each one has a different artist who will give you some tips and tricks, kind of how they do their artwork, and you'll also have loads of different Spectrum Noir tools inside to help you do that. So let's have a look at the box itself. You can see we've got the artwork on the front, we've got a picture of Carrah. It says it's for the improving colourist, so maybe not for the beginner, but I don't know, we'll see. On the back it tells you what's inside the kit, which I'll show you in a moment, but we should also have a how-to booklet, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I want to know how to colour like Carrah. It says express your creativity with distinctive designs that will look amazing on or off the page. Learn to layer, mix and blend colour like never before with gifted young artist Carrah Aldridge. And then obviously you've got all the Spectrum Noir social medias and things like that, but let's have a look inside. It says there's 13 pieces in this one. So we'll open it up, and I'm guessing these are the colours of the markers that are going to be inside. Let's see. Booklet, I think that's it. Yep. So we've got the booklet here, which hopefully is going to be a kind of step-by-step of how to create this face. We have the line art here, and there's a couple of these, I think. Yeah, so we've got a couple of different designs, all drawn by Carrah, so you can see the exact style that she draws in. And then it looks as though we've got some blank card, the same kind of marker card, to maybe draw our own creations on, which is fantastic. The tools that we have are 5 classic markers, which is, if you know the Spectrum Noir markers, the classics kind of used to look like this, with like a hexagonal barrel, and they've been redone in this kind of flat barrel, which matches their Illustrator and their graphic markers. They've got loads of different types of markers. So we've got 5 of those, and then we've got an art liner, which is, I think, their pigment liner. So it says, for beautiful pin sharp smudge proof lines, it's in black and it's a 0.1. Yeah, we've got the marker paper and we've got the dual tip markers. Now these are alcohol markers, of course. So let's get them out and see what colours we've been given. Okay, so marker colours. We've got Ice Grey 5, which actually looks a little bit like a periwinkle colour, but we'll see how it comes out. We've got Denim, Honeydew, Carnation and Aniseed. So these are all really nice kind of bright colours, but a little bit on the pastel side as well. So should get some really nice colour blends out of those. And then of course this art liner, which is 0.1. So let's do a little bit of a swatch of the colours first of all. I've just got some scrap paper here and we'll see what we're working with. So we have this one, which is the Honeydew, which will be an ideal mid-tone for skin. We've got the Aniseed, and also I should mention these are bullet and chisel nibs. So this Aniseed is a lovely bright yellow. Then we've got the ice grey. So let's see if this does have a purple tone. Yes, it does. So with it being called ice grey, I suppose it's meant to be a sort of a cool grey, but it definitely has a little bit of purpley, periwinkly colour in there. Great for shadows, that one. This is Carnation. Very, very bright pink. So I said that was a bright yellow, but it's definitely not if you compare it with the pink. It's much more muted. And then finally the denim. So these are the colours that we are working with in the set. And then the art liner, let's just have a go with this. So very, very fine. Able to get some nice lines out of there without any skipping or stuttering of the ink. That's good. And this is made to go with alcohol markers, so this should not smudge when using alcohol ink, so that's great. Now what I'm really excited to look at is that how-to booklet, because I just want to know how we can colour exactly like Carrah does, because just look how beautiful it is. It's so whimsical and sort of cartoony, but really bright and bold. So let's open this up now, making sure I've got the right way first. Let's go for this. So it says, meet the artist. Carrah Aldridge is a self-taught artist from Columbus, Ohio, who's best known for her signature character designs and doodles. She regularly shares her work online and loves to encourage and inspire up-and-coming artists, or just anyone who enjoys creating with colour. Carrah's passion for art comes through being able to express whatever her imagination dreams up, whilst learning and improving every day. So you can go ahead for more tips and inspiration at spectrumnoir.com/discover. We've then got Know Your Tools. So this is exactly what we've just been given in the box. Classic alcohol markers are a really accessible way to explore and improve your colouring. They are dual tipped for a variety of broad and detailed strokes, and because alcohol-based marker colours use dyes, they are incredibly smooth to apply, with a fine translucency that is perfect for layering and blending. The Art Liner's fast drying pigment ink is perfect for drawing clean, consistent lines you can instantly overcolour without smearing, which is what I was saying before. Tip is, when choosing paper, keep in mind alcohol markers will tend to bleed on thinner papers, so you need smooth, heavyweight paper. We know that anyway about alcohol markers. They are a very sort of heavy media on the page. They will bleed through pretty much anything unless it's special bleed proof paper for markers. And it's saying that the Spectrum Noir markers are refillable. And you can also change the nibs as well. So tips and techniques, this is what I want to find out about. So it says alcohol marker colours are slightly see-through, so they get darker with every stroke. This is great for shading, especially when you only have a few colours. So going over the paper once with an alcohol marker does not give you its true saturated colour. You need to completely go over the paper and totally saturate it until you turn the paper over and it's completely saturated on the back as well, in order to get the true colour of the marker. I'll give you a little bit of a demo. I have already done a video on how to colour with alcohol markers and the kind of thing you'd expect, how you have to layer them and things like that, which I'll link in the description. So it says, as your collection grows, you can start to experiment, blending in darker shades. Spectrum Noir markers are grouped and numbered to make this easy. You can also get some really attractive results by blending colour to colour. These examples were made by touching the tips of two markers together, just like you would if you were using your chameleon markers with your colour tops. You're touching those two tips together and you're getting a blend from one colour to the next. So mixing colours, as well as layering your markers to create shade, you can also mix them to produce entirely new colours. So you can see here we've got a pink and a blue, and as they layer over, they've made this purple tone. It says you can use warmer and cooler hues to adjust the temperature of a colour, or use greys and darker colours to add tone and shade. So obviously, as you'll know if you've watched my colour wheel video, you know that anything, any colour that you add grey to then becomes a tone. It desaturates it, it dulls it down. So layering alcohol markers is really, really useful. Mixing colours. The examples opposite show some results when different colours are mixed. We've got the Carnation, the Aniseed and the Denim. So it's giving you different options for layering your colours and seeing, you know, what they look like once you've layered them, I guess, and what colours you can make. It says, notice the result will change depending on which colour you put down first. Now, I am looking at that, but all I'm seeing is the same colours. So I don't know whether it's just the way that they've been printed, and maybe we'll have to give that a go on actual paper, but they all look the same to me. It says you can use colour theory to great effect with alcohol markers, or just grab a spare sheet of paper and experiment. The final page says you can also try adjusting the intensity of your colours by adding grey to produce a tone, which is what I was just talking about. This instantly desaturates your colour for a more sophisticated or vintage look. So any of these colours with the addition of the grey will give you these tones. So you can see what I mean by it desaturating it, really toning it down and changing the colour completely. You can even combine colours to make grey. So if you wanted to make a darker grey, combine all of these colours one after the other and you'll have a brand new colour. Lastly, when you've finished mixing and manipulating your colours, why not try using an art liner to suggest shade or just add some interesting texture? Cross-hatching and stippling can both be applied to great effect. So you can see here the effects of cross-hatching and stippling. And that's it. I'll be 100% honest with you, as usual. I was really expecting there to be some sort of step-by-step colouring a face by Carrah. It seems as though it's a very general sort of look at what you can do with the markers, how you can blend them and layer them to create different colours, but not so much exactly how to colour this face. So it's something that we're going to have to sort of work out on our own. Something else that I've noticed while looking at this particular colouring, and of course we have the line art of this exact illustration here, is that the colours on this example here are not included in the box. So there is, for example, this red, it's a very deep red, that's not included in the box. I think the green we could probably make with the blue and yellow, but maybe not that light of a green, I'm not sure. But it just seems to me like this was not coloured with all of the markers that we have. So I don't think we're going to be able to emulate this without using some different markers, which is a bit of a shame. But like I say, I really would have liked it if there was a step-by-step from Carrah of exactly how she achieved this so that we could follow along and produce the same result. However, what we've been given is a few tips and tricks on alcohol markers, which, you know, it definitely will help people who haven't used the medium before and they're wanting to figure out how to do it and how to create new colours. So yeah, we've got what we've got. It is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a go, see how we can make this face look as similar as possible to this one. I hope that you'll enjoy watching me do it and seeing what we can achieve. Now, for the skin, I always start with the skin when I'm doing a person. I think it's the hardest thing to overcome, so I like to get it out of the way. For the skin, I think we're definitely going to be using that honeydew tone. And also for the edges of the face here, I'm guessing we're going to have to layer in some of that ice grey. I'm thinking about doing a all over tone on the face first with the honeydew so that we've got that base layer down and then building up the layers on top of that. So again, don't know how this is going to turn out. You know, it's very trial and error. So we'll just give it a go. Now I'm going to try and do it with the chisel end because we've got quite a large space to fill up here. So I don't want to be there with the bullet for a long time. So let's just do one layer on this card. Now this is proper marker card, so this should not bleed through. And we should get a nice smooth result. Okay, so I've put one layer of the marker down. You can see it's still drying at the moment, so it looks a little bit patchy, but it should dry exactly the same tone, very smooth all over. Now, if we look at the back, you can see that the colour has come through, but it's not completely soaked the page. That will happen as you add more layers, and that will begin to build up that true tone of the marker. So now we've got to build up all the different areas of the face that are in shadow and, you know, get that kind of 3D looking effect around the face. So as I said before, I think we're going to have to bring the grey in at the sides here. So that's what I'm going to do next. It seems as though the grey is all on this side of the face, on the right hand side, whereas the left hand side, Carrah seems to have built up with this honeydew colour rather than adding the grey. So that's what we're going to do. I'm trying and get it to, you know, look as much like that as I can. So I'm going to put in all of those areas of grey that I can see down here. So we've got a bit of grey there. There's also, I think I'm going to bring this out just a little bit, thicken it up a little. And then we've got some grey down here as well. So just under the jawline on this side and down the side of the neck. And I think I'm going to leave that as it is for now because I don't want to go too far. I'm going to come back in with the honeydew and build up this side now. So I'm using the thinner end, the bullet nib, and I'm staying just a millimetre away from the edge, which is what I always do anyway when I'm colouring faces because it just seems to give it that rounded look, but it's also what Carrah has done here. And I'm going to bring this in underneath the eye and thicken it up a little bit. It's also just on the eyelid as well and underneath her hair here where shadow would naturally fall. I'm going to do that all the way along. Where else? So we've got the definition of the nose as well. Now it seems that she's given her a little bulb on the end of her nose there. I've got a bulbous nose. So that's what we'll do. Coming up from the nostril here and on this side. I do like to try and make it, you know, as close to the drawing as possible to the way Carrah has coloured it. And then all the way under here, under the nostrils and across underneath the sides. We have some definition and then into the dip underneath her nose as well. So I can also see some shadow underneath her lip. This is actually her lip and I've coloured it thinking it was her chin, but that's fine, we can go over it. That's the great thing about alcohol markers is they like to go over each other pretty well without any sort of skill. And then, have we got anywhere else? Ah, the ears. I always forget the ears. So we need to put some darker tone in here. And you can see what I mean about when you layer alcohol markers, each layer as it dries will dry darker than the one before. So we put some darkness in the ears here and we'll probably be able to go over this again to make it even darker. And then the neck. So here at the side of the neck and underneath the jaw. And I think, is that it? Let's do a little bit just over her eye there. And yep, I think we've filled in all of the bits that Carrah has done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over our grey now with our honeydew and see how that blends, which I'm really excited to see how that does. So I'm just going over it. And sort of blending it back into the face. Now it's also important to remember that you need to wait for the marker to dry between layers because it's not going to look how it looks now after it's dry. So don't kind of freak out if it doesn't look exactly how you want it to look because it's not dried yet. So again, I'm going to go over the greys at this side and sort of bring it back out into the neck. Again, just trying to follow what Carrah has done on her example. So while that dries and sort of does its thing and blends in, I'm looking at this and it looks as if there's also some pink layered over the top of this grey area. Now for pink we have Carnation, which was that really, really bright pink that I showed you. I'm going to layer that over the top and see what that does. So, you know, maybe this is not how Carrah did it, I don't know, but anyhow, we'll give it a go. It really is very dark, or bright rather. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a line while it's still fairly wet. And then bring the honeydew back in and go over it one more time. And then we will leave it to dry so that we can see what it looks like blended. One great thing about alcohol markers is when you layer them, it seems to cancel out the layer underneath. And when I say cancel out, it doesn't erase it completely, but it does allow it to blend nicely together. As you can see, the richness and the saturation of that pink has been completely toned down just by adding this over the top. So that is our shadowed area on this side. Let's leave that to dry and look at what else we can do in the meantime. So let me put these markers away. So for the lips, it looks as though we have some of that grey on the edge of this side and then pink on this side. So let's do that. Got the ice grey again. I'm just going to colour this lip. Now the ice grey really is quite dark at first glance, so just making sure we don't do too many layers of that. And then the pink that we've just used is the Carnation. And don't forget that it seems as though Carrah has used different markers for a lot of this. So it might not be that she used this pink and this grey. So, you know, take it as it is. It's not going to be a complete, perfect reconstruction. I think I'm just going to use that ice grey a little bit more over that central line, just to blend it in a little bit. And maybe let's give blue a go over the top of that grey. There we are. Don't know whether that looks better or not, but how about we try a little bit of yellow over the pink? Maybe that will desaturate it slightly. And blend it in here. I don't want to make a green blend though. It's gone a little bit green in the centre. But anyway, it's helped it to blend a little bit. The eyes. So I said about making the green, we could try and do that with the blue and the yellow. I'm going to put the blue down first and see what happens there. Now don't forget we're going to have a pupil in the middle, so I can always put that in afterwards with the art liner, but I think for now it will be best to colour the whole circle here, get our blend going, and like an idiot I've used the ice grey instead of the blue. Let's just try the yellow on top and see what happens. What have we got here? Okay, so that's not too bad actually. It's kind of, it could be classed as lime green, maybe. But I might put some blue over the top anyway and just see. Oh, this is still ice grey. I keep getting them mixed up. Blue, this is definitely blue. Put some blue over the top and then maybe one last layer of yellow and see if that works. This might be a good demonstration if I can actually get the colours right. So again with the yellow. And we've got a green tone, you know, it's not a perfect green. But yeah, maybe once we put the pupils in, it will look a lot better than it does. And also the highlights as well. As you can see, Carrah has used a white pen, a white gel pen on here, which isn't included with the kit, but luckily I do have one, and that should make all the difference at the end as well. So these lips looking absolutely terrible in the centre here. I might just go over the lot with the Carnation and maybe that'll help. Yeah, that's actually much better because the Carnation has gone over the blue. I think we used blue, didn't we? Yeah, and it's made it into a purple. So now that I've done that mix, that's looking much, much better. Fantastic. So I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. Now we've just got a very, very thin lip here. So grab that blue, definitely the blue this time, and do the same thing. And then go over it with the pink. Okay. So I'm not too fussed about any mistakes or anything like that. It's not going to be perfect, as I've said. But we can give it a go. So it looks as if we've got some purple shading over the eyeball here. Now thinking how we just made purple, but I don't really want it to be that bright of a purple. I'm going to use this ice grey just for a bit of shading over the eyeball here, which is the natural shade that would be cast by your eyelashes. And it kind of gives the eyeballs a little bit more dimension. And then let's go over it with a little bit of pink, just a little bit. and then again with the ice grey, and that might give us a deepish purpley kind of look. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. Now then, what else can we do? So looking at the skin, you can see that it's blended really, really nicely. So we've still got the pink and the grey showing through here, but it has sort of blended itself together and it's not looking so stripy and so, you know, linear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another all over blend with the honeydew to see if we can get this skin tone a little bit smoother. So I'm coming in again with the chisel tip on the honeydew, and I'm doing exactly the same as I did on the base layer. So just one final layer over the whole lot. Now the great thing about using marker card is obviously it doesn't bleed through as much, but also it's built to take markers, so they're not going to bleed or creep out of the lines as much as they would on normal paper, which is what can happen. So going over the whole lot for one more layer, and this should help to really blend it together. I'm not concerned about going over the lines because, as I say, you can layer alcohol markers on top of one another and they kind of cancel the previous layer out a little bit. So that is the second layer. I'm also going to bring in some on the ears here and do an all over layer on them as well. So just deepening up that centre area of the ears. Now already you can see that that's made a little bit of difference to the blend. If you wanted, you could go back in and do more lines and make it look a little bit more like Carrah's made it. So the definition on the nose here is much more apparent on Carrah's. So let's bring that back in. I'm just worried that this is a little bit dark at the edge, so I might just do a little bit more blending over here. So add a little bit more of that honeydew. The same on the neck. And there we go. So I think the skin is pretty much done. I'm going to do a little bit more definition over the eyes. And I think, like I say, that is it. So what else do we have to do? We've got a little bit of grey shading on the teeth here. So I'll use that ice grey just over the teeth line. And we've got the tongue. Now obviously that's not a colour that we've got to play with here, but maybe we can create it by layering the grey on top of the pink. So I'll pop the pink in for the tongue and grey over that. We do end up with a bit of a purpley colour. As I say, if we layer some more pink over it, it'll go back into the pink range, and that's how it works. So I think for the face, we've got everything coloured. Now I'm just going to put the pupil in with this art liner. And again, this is going to be quite tricky because I don't want to mess up. Every time I do eyes, the pupils are always completely different size. I might even cheat and use this little tool that I got here from a charity shop. It's a knitting pin gauge. It's made of metal and it's got all of these little circles in it. So this is going to help us to get the right size of pupil. The only thing is the eyes on Carrah's illustration are slightly elongated. So rather than them being completely round, they're sort of oval, and doing a completely round pupil might not look right, but I'm going to use that as a starting base anyway. So let's go with this one, number 7. I'm going to bring it right up, and the only thing about this is you can't see with it being metal if you're in the centre or not, so I'm going to have to just guesstimate and give that a go. So let's just have a look. Yep, that's pretty much in the centre. And again with number 7, round about there. Let's see. That one's a little bit off, but it's like I say, I can never get pupils right, even when I'm using a blooming gauge. But let's fill it in and see how we go. As I say, I would have been a lot happier if we had a step-by-step tutorial for this. That just it looks terrible. It looks like she's goggly eyed. But because these are oval kind of shaped irises, maybe we can just drag this pupil up a little bit and elongate it the same as the eye shape so it doesn't look too weird. As I say, this is all trial and error, so you are learning with me, and I'm hoping this is not one of those boring rambly videos. I'm going to make it just slightly wider, I think. Doesn't look too bad. The art liner is just starting to pull up the fibres of the paper a little bit, so I think I'm going to have to leave it there, but yeah, it definitely looks wonky, this eye. Maybe just thicken it out a little bit more. Okay, so maybe she's got wonky eyes. That's just how it is. Right, now I'm looking at gel pen details, white gel pen, which I have here, luckily. And I think this is going to make and break the whole illustration, these white gel pen highlights. So just making sure this is working. The one that I'm using is the Uniball Sino Broad, which may or may not work for this. They're very temperamental. I've also got a really skinny Posca pen somewhere that I can't quite find at the moment, but we'll just try it with this. So I'll give it a good shake and see what happens. So we've got a couple of little dots on her ear. And I think again, these are just really simply placed highlights. Okay, so I've done all the white highlights I can see, apart from the little dots on her cheekbones. Now I've left those out because I've noticed that she's got some freckles that we need to add in. So hopefully using the honeydew on top of the layers that we've already put down will create those darker freckles. Obviously, if I had more pens to play with in this set, I would use a bit of a darker tone. But I just want to use exactly what we've been given in this set to see if we can recreate exactly what Carrah has done here. So here we go, just adding in lots of different little freckles here and there. Some of them are slightly bigger, just makes it look a bit more natural, so don't sort of just dot them on. Try and give them a little bit of shape and character here and there. And I've got a few down here and a couple down here and on the neck as well. And a couple on the nose. I'm just going to redefine that nose again because I think we've lost that bit of definition there, and I quite like that. As I say, I think Carrah has used darker tones for her definition because I don't think we can seem to build those with this, with these ones that we've been given. And let's see, what else? Is that all of the freckles? I think so. You can pretty much just do what you want with the freckles, can't you? Add them here, there and everywhere. They're not going to show up too well as they start to dry, but hopefully it's given that impression that she does have freckled skin. And I'll go back in with my white gel pen and add in those few little dots on her cheeks. So I think that's it for the face. The only thing I've realised that I haven't done is the inside of the mouth, which is a really deep kind of red colour and not one I think I'm going to be able to recreate. So just going to go for that grey again. And I don't really want to relayer it with pink because it's going to end up the same colour as the tongue. So I do want to differentiate there. It might take a few layers of this ice grey to deepen it a little bit, but again, not ideal. I think that should be fully saturated through now. Yeah, can you see how that's fully saturated? That means that we've reached the exact colour of this marker. Okay, so it's looking very different to the one that you can see on the box, whether that's my skill level or whether it's because we don't have the right tools included, I don't know, but let's get on with the illustration. So she's got really dark brown hair, but the only brown tone we've been given is this honeydew, and I can't see how I'm going to recreate that unless I kind of layer this on top of the grey, which maybe will do it. I don't know. That's all I can do, so I'm going to give it a go. Okay, so let's have a go at layering this honeydew over the top. I don't think we're going to be able to create the different gradients within the hair doing this, but hopefully we'll get a different kind of tone to the face, which is not really looking very promising at the moment. Yeah, so I'm really not taken with that hair whatsoever, and I can't really see anything that we can do with the colours we've been given to give that rich brown effect that we're looking for to emulate this. Yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment, to be honest. Let's just see if we can maybe put some yellow in for the highlights. I'm just clutching at straws here, guys. Just trying to make a bit of a differentiation in this hair tone. But yeah, it's really desaturated and not a great colour. It's almost like someone's gone grey and then tried to put a really bad box colour over the top of their hair and it's not worked. Which I don't think anybody wants their colouring to turn out. So I think we're going to have to leave that hair as it is, because I really can't see any way to create the blend that we need. Let's have a look. Let's just try a test on the back of this card and see whether layering up blue and grey and the orange, will that do anything? Yeah, not really. I'm going to leave that as it is for now. Disappointed, but there's not a lot we can do about it. I'm going to put in some of these stars that Carrah has put on top of her hair. So it's brightened up the hair a little bit, but I still don't like it at all. But anyway, not to be negative, let's move on and do these flowers. Now again, we've got a purple tone for these flowers here. So I'm going to layer some blue and pink and see what we can come up with. So I'll put the blue down first over the whole of this flower. And then we'll put some pink over the top. Now for the other flowers, we've got red roses, which is going to be very tricky indeed. I can try doing, I was going to say I could try doing a grey with a pink over it, but we're going to end up with a purpley tone again. Very difficult. We're very limited with what we've got here, so it might be that I'm just going to colour all of these pink and then use a grey to put in the shadows. Okay, so as you can see, it's absolutely nothing like the picture, but we need to try and move on from this because we know it's not going to be, so I don't really want to go over exactly the same argument again and again and moan about it. We're going to try and make the best of this situation. So I'm going to put in all of the little highlights that Carrah has used and the little dots and things that really just make it pop and give it that extra little bit of pizzazz. Okay, so now we need a green, which should be easy enough with our blue and yellow. So going to do all of the leaves now. So I'm going to colour all of them blue to start with. Got a nice dark base, and then the yellow should really brighten it up and give us that green tone that we're after. Okay, so this green is by no means perfect. It's a little bit muddy, but it is what it is. Let's do our highlight. Okay, so this flower here is kind of between an orange and a pink, and it's got that yellow in the middle. So let's give it a layer of yellow and then pink at one side and see how that works out. put the pink in, I'm going to go back over with the yellow to blend out that midsection. And pop a little bit of honeydew over this side to try and orange it up a little bit. It might not work, but it's kind of that gradation that Carrah has done there. Okay, and now we have these kind of daisy looking flowers, which seem to be a very, very light grey with some pink around the edges. So all we can do is work with what we've got. So it seems as though we've got pink around this edge and yellow on the other edge. Now the centre of each flower is yellow with bits of shadow in them, which I think will be done with the honeydew. So let's give that a go. So I'll put yellow in the centre, and then we're going to bring in all the shadow with little dots with this honeydew pen. With them being quite small flowers, you don't need a lot of detailed sort of looking where to put the dots and things, just bang it on. Okay, so I'm really not happy with how sort of linear this looks. It's not very blended at all. I'm just thinking how I could maybe do that, but I don't have a light grey to play with, so it's really difficult. And if I put that ice grey over it, it's just going to darken everything. So maybe I will go over it with the yellow, and we'll just make these yellow daisies with a little bit of pink at the rim of the petal. Now we have this one last flower up here which is not on this illustration, so I'm just going to make it a yellow flower with just a few little details. And a tiny bit of pink in the centre. So there are our two pieces side by side. As you know, quite disappointed we couldn't get exactly what we have here from Carrah. But if you take that away and look at this piece on its own, I think it's not actually too bad, hair notwithstanding. Yeah, so I'm pleased that we were able to create this shading and the contouring around the face and the skin tone. As you can see, hardly any of that pink or grey is showing, but it's just created that shade, which is what we were going for. We've used that white gel pen just to pick up some of the details and give those highlights. Again, I think the white gel pen should have been included if Spectrum Noir do a white gel pen. I don't know if they do. So if I was going to give some critique to Spectrum Noir for this discovery kit, I would definitely say get your artists to create the piece of artwork that goes on your packaging with the items you're going to include in that packaging. I think this is a promise that you're going to be able to colour exactly what you see with the items inside, and it doesn't quite deliver on that promise. So yeah, definitely get your artwork to be done with the tools that you're selling. Also, this little booklet that comes with it, it is a very general how to use alcohol markers and how they work type of thing, and all we really know is this little bit of information about Carrah. It's not given us an insight into how she uses the markers and how, you know, any tips or techniques from her, how she would build up her particular art style using these tools. And I think that could have been included. I think this could have been more about her and, you know, her tips and techniques that we could learn from, rather than a general, this is how alcohol markers work. So yeah, that's my little bit of critique for the box, but you know, I'm really happy with how this has turned out, even though it's not the same as what we've got. If you look at it as a standalone, it's actually not too bad. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you're excited by the box, the other discovery kits that Spectrum Noir have available. Yeah, just let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon on Colour with Claire.